Hello, my name is Naive Britain Politics, and today we will be doing episode 8 of the History of the Republican Party series. Today we'll be picking up where we left off in the 50s, really around the 50s in the fifth party system. We're nearing the end. This will be probably near the end of our, probably our second or third biggest party system. We'll be covering the, the end of the Democratic dominance over America, and the rise of Dwight D. Eisenhower and isolationism and paleoconservatism, which, along with the moderatism and moderate globalism of Thomas Dewey, would grow to become dominant within the Republican Party. So yeah, let's get into it. So we have the fifth party system Wikipedia article to show what system we're in, and here we go with the Korean War. That's the first thing I'd like to talk about, the Korean War, which was started in 1950 under the administration of Harry Truman, who, if you watched the last video, beat Thomas Dewey in 1948 after being the vice president to FDR, who was immensely popular, weirdly, seeing that he was not that great if you take a look at the stuff. And so, he also, another thing that Harry Truman did is he actually had fired Doug MacArthur, who was fairly popular among the American people, which did not, he was not very liked. So you can see the Democrats start out in 1952 and they don't have a very good chance. They don't come off to a very good start, and the Republicans are doing fairly well. I mean, they have a very good chance at winning off the bat, even no matter who they choose. And then the primaries come around, and just to show, this is just a little bit of a tangent, but just to show how powerful isolationism had become within the Republican Party, is that Robert A. Taft won the plurality of the vote, and Robert Taft, he was he was son of President William Howard Taft, and he even opposed NATO. He was that much an isolationist. He even opposed NATO, so he was a big isolationist, and he won the plurality of the vote. So that, of course, showed where the Republican Party was going on the ways of isolationism. So yeah, and then you can see, of course, Robert Taft did not win the nomination, and that would end up going to Dwight D. Eisenhower, which was kind of good because Robert Taft would actually die in, I believe, 1953 or 1952. He died very not long after. And yeah, so they chose Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was very, very popular for winning World War II. He was this greatly popular man on the same levels of Doug MacArthur. He helped fight Hitler. And so he was chosen, and the Democrats, they were off to such a bad start that the incumbent president, Harry Truman, didn't even get a chance. He didn't even win the nomination. And the thing is that they recently passed an amendment saying there could have a max of 2 terms, but it said the current president could still seek another term. And Harry Truman was in that ability, but he didn't even win the nomination. In fact, none of the people here won the nomination. If you go down here, it was someone who didn't even run, Adlai Stevenson too, who was the son of another presidential candidate for the Democrats who did not win. So you can see, Democrats were already just off to not a very good start. So you see 1952 comes around, the election day comes around, and everyone's voted, and all the votes come in, and on election night, Dwight D. Eisenhower beats Adlai Stevenson in a landslide, 442 to 89 electoral votes. This was one of the greatest landslides. This is one of the greatest landslides in history. I mean, it's definitely at least top 10, top 20, which is saying something. Seeing there's only been it's around 59 or 60 presidential elections. That's still in the top third or sixth. And he's elected, and Dwight D. Eisenhower ends the war in Korea, I believe through threats of nuclear annihilation. But that's beside the point. He ends the war in Korea, which makes him fairly popular. And 1956 comes around. In combination with his incumbentness, he once again wins, and he wins by a larger margin, which makes this probably one of the greatest electoral victories. Which will be beaten 8 years from now, but will still be a fairly powerful victory. The 50s were very much a decade of democratic, you could say, detriment or lack of power, lack of ability, which would come back in 1960 with JFK, but that's going to be the next video. Next video, we'll probably mostly cover JFK. The 60s and 70s are very packed decade, very packed set of decades. Yeah. So what you need to grab from this video to take away from this video is that Democrats they really shot themselves in the foot from 1948 to 1952 with the Korean War, and yeah. And you can see they shot themselves in the foot with the Korean War, and they would end up losing their power for 10 years almost, for 8 years really, which would prove detrimental and would create the presidency of Dwight Eisenhower, who was a fairly solid president, created the interstate system, which it's used to this day, or at least has a very powerful cultural impact to this day. I don't know if they still use the interstates, but yeah. Yeah. Next video, I'll probably get into JFK, maybe Lyndon Johnson, and then I'll probably do a video about the party switch and arguments for and against it, you could say. But yeah. As always, this is just my opinion. My name is Naive Libertarian Politics, so take everything with a grain of salt. Yeah, I've been making videos roughly every day, so expect another video tomorrow. Yeah. So, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.